Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first Brent Thompson press conference of the season. We will open this up with an opening statement from Coach Thompson, and then we will open it up for questions from the media. So whenever you guys are ready, I'm going to bring to the podium head coach Brent Thompson.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. I appreciate you guys coming out today. It's finally a game week. And when I set out at the beginning of the year and we went to this 25 practice schedule, I said, man, 25 practices is not nearly enough time to get it ready. By the time I got to practice 15 or so, I said, how am I going to motivate these guys for the next 10 or 15 practices to get ready for this thing? So the 10 practices that we had left were pretty good. I thought we had a pretty good camp. Of course, we've had our fair share of nicks and bruises and bumps and those kind of things, but we're getting most of our players back. And we had a good practice the other day. I thought we're finally getting a game preparation, game mode for what's going to be an outstanding Southern Conference game. Typically with Wofford, we've had some great games with them, and I just got done telling my players over the last few years we've had probably most of the games have been within about 4 to 5 points. And I see that happening again this year. As you got two very good teams going at it. You got the defending Southern Conference champions. And I think you got a hungry Citadel team, and that's what we're excited about. And as I've stated since day one, since last year ended, was our off season was all about this game, was all about preparing for this game. And if we can get off to a good start, I think we've got a pretty good chance this year. I like where the offense is at. I like where the defense is at. I like the way that we've prepared. I like just the mindset of this football team. These guys have bonded together. They've worked their butts off. They felt that they underachieved last year, and they knew they underachieved last year. And I thought that was something that they had to understand and find out for themselves, as I found out probably the hard way, and that was against Furman and Clemson of last year. So I think we're in a good spot. I think we've had to mix up a little bit of the lineups, both offensively and defensively, but that naturally happens. We're a little bit younger than we would really like to be on defense, but I've got trust and faith in our coaches and those players that are out there that we've prepared them to win the football game, and that's certainly what we plan on doing. It's going to be a great atmosphere both sides. It's a night game. I think it's probably one of the best, if not the best, Southern Conference game out there because it matches two pretty good opponents that like to do the same things and have the same idea about the way the game should be played over the past few years. And we're going to have our freshman core cadets there, and there's no better atmosphere than that for us. So we feel that it's going to help us out in that regard, and I know we've got a lot of upstate alums that'll be there and some people that are coming from the low country as well. So this game is going to set the season for us. Win or lose, it's going to set the season for us, I think, because to us it is a rivalry game. And no matter what anybody says out there, we play for a trophy. It's been a back and forth, and ever since we've got here, we're going to treat it as a rivalry game for us, and to me it is. And I just got done telling the players that. So, yeah, there's all those others. There's the VMI, there's the Furmans out there of the world, but this has been the one that's probably the most of a feels-like rivalry game in the last few years. Questions?
Coach Wofford, as a new coach this year, what have you done to try to figure out how they're going to be different under Josh Conklin?
Well, offensively, they'll be very similar. They still got Coach Lang there. There's no doubt about that. Defensively, we've just kind of gone back. You know, he was at Pittsburgh for a while. He was the defensive coordinator there. He's at the defensive coordinator at FIU. Certainly, he was here at the Citadel. So there's a lot of different things that you have to do to prepare for those. The good thing was we've had all offseason to look at it. We've known for quite some time that he was going to be the coach. He is a defensive guy, so we've got a pretty good understanding that he's going to be heavily involved, as I'm heavily involved in the offense. So we've got to do, and we've got to prepare for everything just as we normally do for an opening game. But there's certain things that we know we'll probably get.
Take a look at the depth chart a little bit. It looks like you got Dante Smith as one of the A-backs and I guess the second string. What's the Porter-Gaud kid been able to do to kind of stand out to you?
Well, I'll tell you what, is we redshirted him last year. We developed him, and he has progressed probably the best that I've seen in a long time for an A-back. He's a physical guy. He played wide receiver at Porter-Gaud, as you know. We converted him to an A-back, which is a hybrid running back wide receiver for us. And it was great to see him. He's got himself up to almost 190 pounds. We've developed him in the weight room, very typical to what we do with with most of our guys. But I've had the fortunate ability to be able to coach him over the last I guess we're in somewhere around 15, 16, 17 practices or so. So for me, it's been great to see him. I've recruited him because I was recruiting the Low Country at the time and coaching him. So I've really been impressed by what he's been able to do. He's going to be in the rotation. I'm going to go with a 4 A-back rotation. So you're going to see quite a bit of him. I've got all the trust in the world in him. He knows what to do. He knows how to get it done. We just got to get him some game experience.
How has that been for you, coaching the A-backs? I know you said you were excited about it and seems to really enjoy it. How has it been for you?
Best thing I ever did. Best thing I've ever done in the last 3 years, to be honest with you, is I became a football coach to coach football. I didn't become a football coach to go out there and manage people all the time, although I have to do that at times. But what I love to do is coach and be with the players. And in order to maximize our human resources from a staff point of view, it was the best thing that we could have done. And it was the best thing that I could have done because it keeps me more involved, more in touch with my football team. So I really enjoyed it. I've never coached the A-backs, so for me it was all new to me as well.
Coach, Wofford named Joe Newman as their starting quarterback. I think you saw him 2 years ago in the playoff game. He sort of won the game for him, when he came off the bench. So what challenges does he present?
Well, first of all, thank you for reminding me that he did. He certainly did. In fact, I remember it was right down here, and he ripped off a run right out the backside of our defense there. But he's quick, agile. He's got great feet. He is very dynamic. He would fit well into our offense as well for those reasons. So he does pose a lot of challenges to us, and he poses challenges in the pass game just because he can move his feet and he can get something open. A little bit different than Goodson. Goodson was able to put the ball on the money, as we saw a few times last year. Look to throw the ball a little bit first, but I would say that Joe's a little bit more of a runner, and he can hurt you with your feet as well. So we've got to be mindful of that in the pass game with him.
Coach, now that Jordan Black is the man at quarterback, have you been pleased with how he's accepted the leadership role? Is this indeed his team?
It is his team, and it has been his team since Dominic graduated in December. There has been no doubt about it, and we've put him forward as that guy, and I think he's developed that way as well. He's a fairly even-keeled guy. He doesn't get neither high nor low, and that's something that you've got to learn to coach. And because something that you really appreciate at quarterback is if it goes wrong, he's going to play the next play. If it goes right, ho-hum, he's going to play the next play. So I think that's going to be something that's going to play out through the course of the season here, and how this becomes more and more of his team. But in the offseason, those guys have looked to him. He's been a member of our leadership council, and he's also been able to certainly guide the offense up and down the field a couple of times.
What are some of the challenges of playing a game like this week one? I mean, it's a rivalry game. It could really matter in the SoCon standings. They all matter, but when it's this important this early, what are some of the challenges?
The only challenges that I'm concerned about is ourselves, and that is what you saw in the Jacksonville State and the North Carolina A&T game was just, hey, control what you can control the penalties, and control the turnovers and those kind of things, and you'll be just fine. I can't worry about what Wofford's going to do. I can't worry about that. I'm just concerned about what we're going to do, and those are the things that get you beat early. It's not necessarily what you do; it's what you don't do and what you don't do well. Those are the tough things early on in the early on games. You don't have time to get some of the kinks out of this thing, man. You're hitting it essentially full speed, full stride, like mid-season mode first game. But we did it against Mercer a couple of years ago. We weren't completely clean in that game, but the cleaner team will usually win these football games early.
Coach, on the depth chart, you have 2 preseason All-SoCon guys, and Jalon Williams and Noah Dawkins, who are listed at second team. What's sort of the dynamic at those positions?
You'll see both of them. Both of them are probably rotation guys for us right now. Is on the defensive side of the ball, there's very few defensive players, no matter where you are anywhere in the country, that are playing more than 4 to 5 snaps consecutively. So you'll see a lot of those guys all the time, even though they're listed as 2 and maybe sometimes even 3 on the depth chart, is that we're going to rotate those guys around. We've changed Noah's position a little bit. We needed a little bit more depth at his position. And then certainly Jalen is moving back and forth. You're going to see him at a couple different positions as well. So that's probably merely just on paper more than it is in reality anymore. Offensively, it's a little bit different. You only see rotations at probably A-back for us and B-back.
On offense, you've been anticipating having that line back as a unit all off season, and now the opener and John Cole's not there. How big of a concern is that? Is Harry Easler ready to step in?
Yeah, and Harry's been ready for the last couple of years. We've just kept him as our third guard, essentially both sides of the left and right. So I don't think there's any concern or any issue with Harry going in there. He's been trained for a couple of years. He knows exactly what to do. He's a very smart football player. I don't have any concerns as far as him playing in there. But it's been continuity-wise. It's been going that way for about the last little bit over a week. So I feel like we've settled into an offensive line that we can function with on Saturday night.
Brent, personnel-wise, just generally, your freshman class, is there anybody in your freshman class that's going to help you immediately or that you see of playing this year rather than putting a red shirt on?
You'll see quite a few. You'll see at least the two B-backs, Amike Nwanze and, of course, Clay Harris. Both of those, they have done a great job in the scrimmages that we've had. Them combined with Lorenzo Ward gives us a much different B-back perspective in this offense, which will make a difference for us on the offensive side. Other than that, you probably won't see too many more on the offensive side. On the defensive side, you'll see maybe a couple of redshirt freshmen in there. True freshman-wise, you may see a little bit of the Marquise Blunt or Mason Kinsey at the defensive end spot in there. There's a pretty good chance you may see some of those guys rotate in somewhere by the end of the year. With this new redshirt rule, we've got to find out how we're going to manage it. And if we can manage a four-game kind of deal with those two guys, that would be very, very helpful with us. We'd rather not at the linebacker spot, but by the end of the year, we may have an opportunity to get somebody ready for whether it's Kyler Estes or Joe Douglas ready for the linebacker spot there. Secondary-wise, we're going to try to get away with what we've got. You'll see some redshirt freshmen on the back end, and then hopefully we won't have to play any corners or anything as a true freshman.
How about some of these guys that transferred in? Are they going to be able to help you?
You'll see most of them will be depth guys, rotation guys for us. Certainly, on the defensive line, you're going to see Sean McCord quite a bit. He has actually done a really good job, been with us since June in summer school, and done a great job of just getting acclimated to what it takes to play down here. And then certainly at linebacker, you'll see Isaac in there, probably a little bit more against teams like Wofford and Furman than you will against maybe a Sanford team. He's a pretty good run-stopping guy in there. So he's going to be good this week for rotational purposes. And then Peterkin and on the back end will help us out as a rotation guy at safety, possibly corner, but right now we've got him at safety. And then Cliff Barrett at the bandit spot. He can play bandit or safety for us. So most of those guys are rotation guys for us, depth guys for us. They're going to prevent us from having to play true freshmen in the back end.
Last question is the new head coach, I know was a defensive coordinator at Pitt. Does he bring back pretty much the same scheme that Mike knows has been running for years and years?
There's a pretty good chance. I think there's a pretty good chance there. We've had to prepare a little bit for what they did at Pitt, but we've certainly looked at what he did here as the coordinator and what he did at FIU as the coordinator. You've got to prepare for all those, and as you know, when you go into those opening games, there's no telling what you're going to get, and you've got to prepare your guys for all the different looks. And for us, we prepare more about techniques than we do looks. No, he was a safety for the longest time, and he's a long corner, which is tough to find. So he's probably one of the fastest kids, if not the fastest kid on the team. He's a guy that we're going to put to the boundary most of the time, and he's going to be able to defend some of those balls over there because he does have such great speed and such great height that we thought it would be his best fit. But no, he did start off as a safety here for us, and we moved him to corner with a little bit out of necessity, but also I think it suits his skill set best. So Sean Thomas is from the upstate and came to us and really was we redshirted him last year. He was really a guy that we knew was going to be a developmental guy, kind of similar along the lines of a Dante Smith, is developed a lot faster than I thought he would. He's a very, very smart football player, but put some really good weight on. After you go through your freshman year here, you see a good 15 to 20 pounds that you can increase correctly the right way throughout the spring and summer semesters, where I think that's what Sean Thomas did, and he's developed into a really nice football player earlier than we expected. So we're excited to see what he can do as a redshirt freshman. All right, thank you for coming out.